Welcome to the Verint Guard Center training course. In this module, we will review the setup and use of the Guard Center Workstation appliance. In this module, we will cover what is the Guard Center Workstation appliance. We'll review an example of how it is often used. We will also look at the steps required at Workstation startup. Finally, we'll check out some of the more common initial Verint software configurations. Let's start this module reviewing what is the Guard Center Workstation appliance. This unit is a fully installed appliance with fully licensed Op Center and Vid Center. The unit is simple to use for most Guard Center functionality. The hardware is designed for up to 4 monitor outputs. The unit is also intended for use on NIC 2 of Edge VRs in an IP addressing schema that is close to the default. Keep in mind, if there are multiple Edge VRs, the NIC 2 IP addressing must be adjusted in each unit as they come from the factory identical, as mentioned in earlier modules. It is important to note, though, that because these workstations live off the network, all software control measures must be considered separately from the bank's normal IT support organization. Some items that become important are keeping Microsoft and antivirus patches up to date. Often because the workstation lives outside the network, it is necessary for a technician to be on site for any software updates, whether for service or maintenance. In a scenario as shown here, the time to have the system completely up and running is very short. The Guard Center appliance is connected directly to the network to which NIC 2 of each Edge VR is also connected. All cameras connected into those Edge VRs also are made available to the Guard Center user. The Guard Center workstation itself has the existing Op Center and database, so there will be no need to connect the workstation to any other database. For this appliance, there are some basic startup steps that must be performed. First, connect the peripheral devices, such as a single monitor and USB mouse and keyboard, and then connect up to the network switch. Next, turn the appliance on for boot up, and at first we can skip the initial network step. Next, we need to ensure the workstation, with its default IP addressing, can communicate with the Edge VRs on the provided network. We do this with a simple ping command from the workstation to each of the attached Edge VRs. Of course, we need to make sure the Edge VRs are already up and running in the network environment. Finally is the basic housekeeping for the appliance. This means we need to check that time, date, and time zone are correct. And then we proceed with a few steps to ensure Vid Center auto starts when the main Guard Center user logs in. If applicable, we may also want to turn off the workstation and add in any remaining monitors. As mentioned, we can use up to 4 monitors per appliance. Next, we move to some of the more common Verint software configurations we need before we start using Guard Center. Start by logging into Op Center on the workstation appliance using the provided username and password. This information can also be found in the Guard Center Workstation Installer Quick Reference Guide in the Resources section of this course. Once logged in, go to the DVRs menu and select DVR Manager. On the left, add a DVR for each of those units in the network. Again, assuming these have already been set up, the IP addressing and naming conventions should be known. On the right, enter the basic information, such as admin and user passwords for the units, the unit name, and IP addressing. Once done, click Apply Changes in upper right. Now let's add the new Edge VRs into permissions for the default users. Select Server and Permission Manager. In the row for the Guard Center user, choose the Edit button on the far right. Choose the DVR tab and check the box next to Root. Now, just above Root, click on User in order to change the permissions of the checked box. Select the Features tab. Each of these has a factory default. However, it might be important to review each to ensure they are correct for the installation. Click Save Permissions at the bottom. Click Server and General Settings. Under the Database tab, ensure the days for each setting is appropriately set, typically 30 or 60 days. Next, let's log into VidCenter. Go to the File menu and select Settings. In the General tab, we may want to adjust the DVR connection status, disclaimer, or screensaver options. In the PTZ tab, we may choose to automatically restart PTZ patterns. And in the Dewarping tab, we may need to come back to make adjustments here if the 360-degree cameras are not moving as expected. Finally, let's restart so all the new settings take effect. Logging in, let's now check that live view of video is available from cameras. A simple review of just a few cameras from multiple Edge VRs should be helpful here. Let's also check that Guard Center Manager is functioning properly. Click the icon to open. There most likely will not be any video walls created, so we'll just close the Guard Center Manager for now. Finally, we'll need to go through the steps to create virtual DVRs, zones, and tours, as well as input maps if necessary before we create our video walls. Review the modules earlier in this course to detail out those steps. From here, the Guard Center environment is ready for use. In this module, we have reviewed the Guard Center Workstation Appliance. We've showed an example of how it's used. We've reviewed the steps required the first time it is started. Finally, we've taken a look at some of the more common initial Verint software configurations once the unit is installed. This module is concluded. Thank you for joining us. Please follow Verint on your favorite social media platform.